In this episode of Art of Making, unusual musical instruments of Kazakh people, Tayak and Tai Tuyak. Ethnical motifs in the modern fashion. Many legends and myths have been created by peoples of different countries about music and musical instruments. Having learned to sing, human beings began to listen carefully to what was around. Much of what used to be noise, bird songs, the rustle of trees, now sounded like music. Various objects such as pebbles, reeds, and trees started to speak and produce sound and were turned into musical instruments. Over time, they were modified, improved, and new parts were acquired or replaced. Few people know that Kazakh people have more than 30 types of national musical instruments. They are original and special in their own way. Tai Tuyak instrument looks the most unusual among them. By its appearance, it is not difficult to guess what it is made of. But let's not rush and take a look at the legacy of our ancestors. So what is the sequence of steps for making an instrument from hooves? Today I will talk about the process of making a Tai Tuyak. First, the hooves are boiled for 5-6 hours. Then the excess bones are removed. This is how it looks like after that. In order to get rid of the smell, they are hung out to dry for 2 weeks. Over the centuries, every nation has created its own national music and original instruments. Skill in constant search, intuition, and inspiration helped craftsmen create musical instruments that were unsurpassed in sound. For these purposes, folk craftsmen used everything that nature gave them: wood, clay, metal, but their collection was also replenished with livestock products and raw materials. Strings for kobus were made from the tail of the horse, dalupas and drums were made of leather, and Tai Tuyak was made of hooves. Both sides are aligned, and the next thing we need to do is to clean the edges. The design of Tai Tuyak is quite simple. The main thing in its manufacturing is to thoroughly clean the surface of the hooves. This process is laborious and cannot be rushed because the purpose of grinding is to align parts and make all sides of the surface smooth. Kazakh musical instruments are similar to those of the Turkic peoples living in western Siberia, as well as Kalmyks, Mongols, and Kyrgyz people. Having a single root of origin, they developed in various ways, which are reflected in the name, form, design, ornament, timbre, and techniques of playing them. After cleaning, we stick a wooden plate this way. Then it takes about 2 hours for glue to dry. The wooden plate undergoes a series of polishing procedures before gluing. The parts of the instrument are assembled using a basic glue for wooden work. Tai Tuyak is a percussion instrument. Its sound is peculiar and unique. In ensembles of folk instruments, Tai Tuyak is used to imitate the sound of the hooves of a racehorse or other cloven-hoofed animal running across the steppe. To give gloss to the outer part, a hoof is polished using a piece of glass. Each craftsman knows the features of finishing coating very well. He is familiar with varnishes and paints suitable for these purposes. After the final preparation of the instrument, he begins to paint it. The inner part is treated with selected coloring agent. The same actions are carried out with the varnish. Before paint, the upper part of the hoof is covered with thin leather, the purpose of which is to give a special sound. In order for both parts to not separate from each other while the instrument is being played, they are tied with a strap of leather. Craftsmen decorated Tai Tuyak with elements of traditional Kazakh painting, multicolored stones, carvings by hand, or wrapped it with beautiful braid, turning it into a real work of decorative and applied art. The original percussion instrument Tai Tuyak is distinguished by its naturalness. A natural clatter of hoofs, a bright, loud enough sound resembles the sound of Spanish castanets. With the help of a piece of leather, you can decorate the instrument like this, or with a fabric. Now the instrument is ready for use. The world of musical instruments is rich and diverse. They have a unique property. With the help of sounds, they convey to listeners the thoughts and feelings of the composer embodied in artistic images. Each instrument goes its own thorny path from birth before it sounds mysterious and melodic, stirring a wave of feelings in the person's heart. The musical world of the Kazakh people includes not only dombra, kobus, or jetegen. Over the long history of music's existence, nomadic people constantly invented something new. Thanks to these efforts, it was possible to create really interesting and amazing things. Few people have heard of the percussion musical instrument asatayak. In ancient times, it was an important part of the cult rituals and served as an attribute of shamanic rites, which is why it was not widely used in musical life. Today I will show you how to make Kazakh instrument kundu asatayak. It is made of strong beech. The cuts of wood are fastened and we give the base of an instrument. After cutting, we start the treatment of the wood. The birth of asatayak has several intermediate stages. The craftsman makes a body of 4 cuts attached to each other. For the manufacturing of the instrument, strong types of wood are used: beech, elm, and maple. A shape is defined on the body, which is subsequently cut out. Астында Tuyak is different in shape and size. Its height varies from 30 to 120 centimeters. Long ones resemble a spear or a staff, the upper part of which has a fixed head decorated with ornaments and metal rings. Астында Tuyak is cut out, then we trim excess wood, then grind and coat it with varnish. Working with sandpaper every centimeter, the craftsman gives smoothness to the surface of the instrument. Finishing the appearance is needed not only for aesthetics, but also for giving a silky texture to the head, which will not spoil the sound when playing. In fact, it's a very large Астында Tuyak. It resembles the sun in its shape. Our distant ancestors made an inanimate object sound, endowing it with magical qualities. Being incredibly easy to use, Астында Tuyak has a ringing and rustling timbres. Without tone series, it makes a pleasant and melodic sound, colored with expressive tones. After polishing, the Астында Tuyak is covered with lac and is hung out to dry during the daytime. Finally, patterned metal plates, pendants, bells are attached to the flat head. Now, its unusual appearance has acquired exclusively national features. The principle of playing it is simple. You just need to shake the rod and metal parts will come to life and gain a bright sound. The unusual sound of Астында Tuyak can be heard in the compositions of folklore orchestras and bands, but outside the genre of ethnic music, it's not widespread. Many may have heard this instrument without knowing it, and it's time for those who first heard it to enjoy its harmony. Today, in the wardrobe of almost every person, you can see a sweatshirt, a hoodie, or long sleeve jumper. At first glance, it may seem that they're all the same, but this is far from the case. Made from different materials, practical and comfortable to wear, these products won an army of fans and became an indispensable attribute of completely different styles. Jamila Zijanova, co-founder of the brand and salon studio, proves that not only sweatshirts but also national dresses, vests, wedding outfits, camisoles can look stylish and modern. Skillful integration of complex patterns and ethnic motifs intertwined with new trends become the main bestsellers of the season. And Jamila Zijanova will tell us how modern sweatshirts are combined with traditional motifs.
Вообще национальными изделиями мы занимаемся 6 лет.
We have been dealing with national products for 6 years. Recently, stylized national products have become relevant. Therefore, it didn't take us too long to decide to create sweatshirts, adhering to modernity. At the same time, through our production, we wanted to somehow support Kazakhstan, our ethnic group, so as soon as we got this idea, we started to work on making sweatshirts. They are modern, and you can wear them every day.
Их можно носить на повседневку каждый день.
The name sweatshirt comes from two words, sweat and shirt. The sweatshirt is characterized by a free silhouette, its sleeves are made in the form of a raglan, and the neck has a round neckline and is trimmed with an elastic ribbon, just like a wrist area and a belt. The lack of pockets and hood distinguishes the sweatshirt from other types of sweaters.
Сейчас мы будем выкраивать наш свитшот.
Now we will cut out the sweatshirt. The patterns are prepared in advance.
Наш закройщик.
Our cutter is now cutting the edge from the fabric.
Сейчас срезает кромку от ткани.
Sewing is based on standard rules for working with knitted fabric. The back and front of the sweatshirt are cut out according to the cut. Then sleeves are cut into patterns and cut out, taking into account the length with calculation for 8-10 cm elastic ribbon. Although knitted fabric does not crumble, the edges of the cut parts are treated with an overlock or zigzag stitchings. The parts and sleeves are then sewn together. Using a measuring tape, hip circumference is measured to cut off the desired length of the lower elastic ribbon. It should be much shorter than the actual length of the base of the sweatshirt. Another key point in the tailoring of the sweatshirt is the preparation and placement of the print.
Сами принты у нас создаются.
The prints themselves are created by Kazakh artists, both young and famous. Let's say this kind of print is called family. We used stylization. It means that this is not a living drawing, but stylization.
Это больше не живой рисунок, а стилизация. Здесь говорится о семье.
It symbolizes family, that there is an elder members, grandparents, and children.
И вот такие маленькие ребятишки. На данной иллюстрации вы можете увидеть.
In this illustration, you can clearly see the yurt, as if the family is under the roof of the house, and ornaments.
Такие вот орнаменты. Следующим этапом мы будем пришивать.
The next step is to sew an ornament, our illustration onto the sweatshirt. For this, you need to find the center. The first sweatshirts were made in 1920 in the US. Benjamin Russell of Alabama made a new kind of cotton sweater, which was given the name sweatshirt. Sportsmen, having appreciated the quality and convenience, bought out the first batch of clothes. Gradually, people began to learn about sweatshirts not only in the sports field, but also outside it. In the mid-60s, the sweatshirts became an indispensable attribute of the school uniform of American students and entered absolutely all sectors of society. The application of printed slogans, prints with original images on sweatshirt became the main driver of the interest among the public. These clothes are now outside the age and gender. Free cut, functionality, absence of buttons, zippers, and fasteners are the special features of the sweatshirt.
Для свитшотов наших мы используем турецкий.
We use Turkish knitwear. For our sweatshirt, at the moment, it is considered the best. We also use various colors from dark to bright shades. We have not only one type of print, but there are different ones. For example, let's say we create a sweatshirt in the style of a modern girl who wears modern sneakers, but with some kind of national camisole.
Каким-нибудь национальным хожикей. Изначально мы изготавливали стандартные размеры, но со временем мы посмотрели, что
Initially, we made standard sizes, but over time, we revised our approach and decided to cover all female sizes.
Поэтому хотелось бы как бы охватить.
We began to make sweatshirts from size 42 and up to 54.
От 42-го там на заказ до 54-го размера свитшоты.
Drawings and prints are a very important detail of the image, and clothes with ethnic prints are doubly attractive. It is individual and exotic. Family, girl with a cat, Qazaq, a catchy and bright in color palette. They give sweatshirts a unique color and identity. In addition to clothing, ethnic trends are colorfully traced in designers' handkerchiefs, in which craftsmen lay a whole philosophy.
Также один из наших продуктов это не только.
Another thing we make is headscarves. We sew not only sweatshirts but also headscarves.
Их очень часто дарят именно.
They're silk, they're often presented for holidays. For example, this headscarf is called The Cycle of Life, and the illustration of the headscarf, that is the work itself, was created by Aygul Hakimjanova. She is a famous artist of Kazakhstan.
Это известный художник Казахстана. В данном платке смысл таков, что по центру.
The meaning here is that young people are at the center. The groom and bride are blessed by the elders of the family.
Старейшин рода. А дальше, если посмотрите.
And then, if you look around, this headscarf, the cycle of life. That is, everything begins Qazan Shah, Samovar, Shashu.
Здесь
A dowry is carried on a camel, elements of our national games, Qazaq. But this whole life seems to be spinning in this scarf. And our headscarves are very beloved by foreigners because we put meaning in them. Well, they give headscarves to their parents-in-law and other close people. The ethno-style inherent in the decorative design of the headscarves is a reflection of the centuries-old traditions of the Kazakh people, representing the highest ideals of good and beauty. It's curious, but through a long historical journey, the sweatshirts in fact became clothes for all occasions of life. Both college students and office workers like to wear it. It is suitable for festive ceremonies and celebrations. Sometimes only one element is enough to create a unique image and charm. Combining modern trends and ancient traditions, the sweatshirt will allow its owner to look stylish and original.